I'll figure out how to use Zoom eventually.
There he
Thank
is.
you so much for the warm welcome. I'm really excited to be here. I'm actually this presentation is going to be a little interactive. So um, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the chat box, you can probably hit it at the bottom and just type in a word or two that just helps me understand how you're feeling about this session. If you're looking forward to it, if you're like, oh no, I got to sit through another one of these, go ahead and drop that into the chat box just to make sure that everyone knows where it is. And so I get a feel of how folks are doing. Chat should be, you should be able to respond only to me. And that way, some of the questions I'm going to ask, you have this little veil of anonymity. I'll be able to see your responses, but they won't be broadcast publicly. All right, so a couple people who are excited, curious. Oh, all right, curious with a smiley face, intrigued by the introduction. I think I will tell all but one of the stories in this presentation, but I'll tell the rest if you'd like. Hoping for some hope. Yes, we're going to get some understanding and some hope. There's just so much stupid out there. I'm very excited to hear what I have to say. Don't worry, some of what I say will be stupid as well. Positive, enthusiastic. I'm so excited. Attended presentation at AZ Neuro Conference last year. Was wonderful. This one's going to be a little different than last year, so hopefully you enjoy it as well. Excited, earnest, awesome. So as we go through, this is going to be a relatively high energy presentation. You'll get to know me pretty quickly here, but my favorite quote of all time comes from Albert Einstein, and he said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Now, this often misquoted as Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. He actually never said that. He said this. And what that means is that sometimes as humans, we develop patterns of behavior or habits, and then to find that we end up getting in these troubles or in issues, and then to get out of that trouble, we use the same patterns of behavior and same habits, which makes no sense. So if you want different kinds of outcomes, then the process needs to be different. If you want something different at the end, then as you're working, that needs to be different. So I take that to heart with every presentation that I do. And I'm not going to give you, this is not going to be a standard Zoom conference. This is not going to be a standard webinar. This is going to be something completely different so that you can get different outcomes. So I'm not going to start with my introduction. I'm actually going to start with an exercise in third grade thinking. So put on your third grade hair hat, and we're going to go back to when we were all third graders. Now, when we're in third grade, we all learn how to read. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to put a phrase on the screen in just a moment. And what I want you to do is I want you to read the phrase. Everyone's mics are muted, so I'm not going to be able to see or hear whether you're reading or not. But I want you to read the phrase out loud. Then we're going to do some work with it. All right, so pretend you're a third grader. On the count of three, go ahead and read the phrase. 1, 2, 3. Fear of being a failure is one of the most effective forms of freezing innovation. Another is fear of being successful. Congratulations, you've now graduated third grade. You should be so proud of yourself at this moment. All right, now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna move into fourth grade. Now, in fourth grade, we're gonna start working with numbers. Now, it's not gonna be Common Core math, it's gonna be relatively easy. What I want you to do is I want you to simply count the number of F's that appear in that phrase. I'm gonna put the same phrase back on the screen in just a moment, and I want you to count the number of F's. Now, we don't have all day, so I'm going to give you 15 seconds to accomplish the task. This orange dot here, that's a countdown timer. You will see that disappearing as those 15 seconds goes away. Once you have your number, we're going to ask some questions about it, and then we'll move forward. All right, 15 seconds, count the number of F's in the phrase. Ready to go. Here we go. 15 seconds begins now. And there's time. Okay, what I want to know is I want to know a couple things. One, what is your level of confidence on a scale of 1 to 10? And then I also want to know what is the answer you got. So I just launched the poll. And so your first question here is, what is your level of confidence in your answer? 10 is certain, all the way down to 1 is like, oh, I've got no clue. And then enter in how many F's are in the phrase. So you will have to scroll down to see all of the options and then scroll down to hit submit. So we have 107 people on the call. And so I will go ahead and stop it once we get close to everyone having a chance to participate. So again, level of confidence, 1 through 10. And then how many F's are in the phrase 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 13. All All right, got about half the folks have submitted so far. All right, well, I'll keep it open for another 12 seconds or so. If you are not paying attention, this is a good time to jump in and start paying attention. Someone said theirs won't submit. Try to scroll down all the way down to the bottom. Sometimes the submit button gets hidden. So if you scroll down, you might be able to find that submit. If you don't worry about it. I've got your answers here. Oh, yours is grayed out. All right, sorry about that. Maybe you haven't selected both answers. I don't know. A couple people say it's not working. I see you there though. You're okay. 10 more seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Let's go ahead and look at the results. So we have, on a scale of 1 to 10, almost everyone was, let's see, a 7 or higher in confidence. Looks like about 80% of folks are 7 or higher in confidence, maybe 90%. And then look at the answers. Oh dear. They're all over the place. They're all over the place. We've got 21% of people said it's 8. 20% said 9. 20% said 11. I think we got to demote you all from 4th grade back down to 3rd grade. We can't count. All right, let's look at this. All right. So the answers all over the place. This is crazy. This is the official answer. There are 12 F's in the phrase. What? What's going on? Okay, before you think I'm lying, where are they? Let's find these F's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The ofs. What the of? Okay, what's going on? Well, under stress, our brains take shortcuts. In psychology, we call these heuristics. And we take these shortcuts because there's just too much information in the world for our brains to process rapidly. And so we take these shortcuts to make sense of the world around us. So the shortcut that you took after me introducing some stresses to you, the tick, 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 you see the thing disappearing, you're in 3rd grade, you're in 4th grade, read out loud, all these are stressful to your brain. And so your brain said, fear, that's an F. Failure, that's an F. Of, that's a V. And your brain skipped over 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of the F's in of because you process it as a V. You weren't actually counting F's. You were doing what psychologists call taking shortcuts or heuristics. Now, 5 people did actually get it right, so congratulations to you 5. But getting it right is not the point. Now, I teach what are called the principles of human understanding. These are 22 principles that are essentially the brain science and psychology behind leadership, communication, collaboration, and relationships. Now, whenever I say relationships, people think, oh, you're talking about romantic relationships. Well, yes, it can be used in that arena, but I'm actually talking about anytime 2 humans are relating, that's a relationship, okay? Now, we don't have time to go through all 22 of the principles because we got to keep moving. We only have an hour for the session. But I do want to highlight a couple of things. If you are a geek and you want to dive into all 22 of the principles, you can grab my book. It is called The Cure for Stupidity, Using Brain Science to Explain Irrational Behavior. Cupid, you can buy one for your mom for sure. She'd really enjoy it. But I am going to highlight a few of the principles. And the first one is called the illusion of certainty. Now, the illusion of certainty is our brain's propensity to project certainty even if there is none. So when I said, what is your level of confidence in counting the F's, almost everyone said 7, 8, 9, or 10 in confidence. Everyone was certain that they had the right answer, and only 7% of us actually did, meaning 93% of us got it wrong. We couldn't count to 12 in F's. Right? That's the illusion of certainty at play. So you ask someone, hey, when are you going to turn that report to me? And they say, a week from Friday. And then they fail to meet their own self-imposed deadline. That's the illusion of certainty. When you go up against somebody and you find that they're just holding so tightly to their idea or the way they think the world is or their opinion, right? That's the illusion of certainty. It's important to understand that it exists. This is one of those things that even though you know about the illusion of certainty, it's not going to go away. So just a quick word of warning, it will come back to bite you. This is something that all humans need to watch out for all the time. All right, let's move on a little bit. A couple more questions for you. This one's kind of getting into some economics, but what is the first US company worth over $1 trillion? That's $1 trillion. Certain age groups going to love that joke. All right, I'm going to roll out another poll here. First US company worth over $1 trillion. I want to know, what is your level of confidence? Again, 1 through 10. And then I gave you a couple options, so it's just not a wide open question here. So Amazon, Apple, Exxon, GE, Google, Microsoft, or Walmart. All right. Go ahead and give me your level of confidence and then give me what your answer is. All right. All answers are coming through pretty quickly here. Fantastic. All right. I'll give it another 10 seconds. All right. Thank you for dropping yours. I see if the poll is broken for a couple people, drop it in the chat. That works for me. All right. Oh, I'm seeing that the confidence is quite a bit more spread out this time. It seems like you're learning. All right, 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, ending the poll. All right, let's go ahead and share these results. Looking at confidence. All right, 5 was the most frequent, but it's all spread out. A lot of people were 9 or 1 out of confidence. No clue. That's fantastic. Amazon is the #1 answer here, followed by Apple, and then Microsoft, and then Exxon, and then Walmart, and then Google. Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing the results. The first U.S. company worth over $1 trillion is Apple. Apple Inc. is the first U.S. company. Information for you. They're actually the first U.S. company worth over $2 trillion. That happened last week. Now, follow-up question. If I showed you the Apple logo, would you recognize it? All right, this is going to be getting there. All right. All right, so we're looking for confidence here. Actually, that poll doesn't look like it made it in there. So again, you drop this into the chat. 10 out of 10 confidence, yes or no. Obviously, this one's going to be pretty easy as we go. I'm saying yes, 10, yes, 10, yes, 10, yes, 10, 10 out of 10, yes, 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 yes. Fantastic. Okay, do me a favor, everyone. Tell me which one is it? See, what you're experiencing right now is the illusion of certainty fading away. You're like 10 out of 10 confidence. Yes, I could recognize it. Oh dear, maybe I can't. And so what you're experiencing is something that I call the oh crap gap. The oh crap gap is somewhere in the distance between I am certain and then, ooh, there's some reality. That it's like, oh crap, maybe I don't know. And I want you to hold on to that because I asked this question, if I showed you the Apple logo, would you recognize it? Everyone's like, yes, 10 out of 10 confidence. And then I show you the options and you're like, ooh, maybe not. Oh crap. Right? And I want you to hold on to that because I just warned you that the illusion of certainty was going to come back and bite you just 5 minutes ago. And there it happened just that quickly, That is something I want you to pay attention to, that oh crap gap. That means that there's something to be learned here. There's something outside of what I believe to be all the time. Hold on to it. I'm not saying don't be confident because confidence is important, but confidence and certainty are not the same thing. Certainty means there is nothing outside of what I believe. Confidence is I believe very strongly. Those are two different things. All right. Now I know that some people definitely need to know, and so they won't be able to move on until I give this answer. So we'll roll this one out as a poll here. So what is the appropriate Apple logo? If you want to prove your rightness here, you can go ahead and enter that in. If you don't want to participate in this one, you do not have to because this one's a little bit harder. All right. I'm going to leave it open for 5 more seconds. All right, I'm seeing a little spread here, but we're kind of consolidating. All right, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so looks like a lot of folks said #1. About 30% of folks said #1. #2 answer looks like #9, followed by #3. All right, so if you said anything other than #9, you are incorrect. You are incorrect. Now, however, getting it right is not the most important thing, right? Getting it right is not what I want you to learn. I want you to remember, what did it feel like when you saw all of those options, right? And the reason that is important, the reason I start with that, is you may come to a session like this and you may say, I know what to expect. I know what you're going to say, right? I've experienced so many of these things before. I'm going to give this session my minimal attention. Maybe that's the illusion of certainty. Because the illusion of certainty makes us say things like, I know. And I want to remind you that maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. And the reason that's important is that the only things in life we can learn are things that we don't yet know. I'm going to say that again because that's fundamental to everything we're going to do. The only things in life we can learn are things that we don't yet know. And if the illusion of certainty has its way, we know everything already, which means we can learn nothing. So I want you to come into this session and the rest of the conference with an open mind to what you don't yet know, because that's the only place you can grow. All right, now I can introduce myself. My name's Eric Bailey. I'm the president of Bailey Innovation Group. I'm actually just wrapping up a 2-year term as an honorary commander with the 63rd Fighter Squadron at Luke Air Force Base here in Arizona. As a part of this program, I actually did get to fly an F-16. Actual footage of me in the F-16 flying, and I was in the back seat, just so you know. There's a trainer jet, so I was in the back seat just being flown. But at one point, my commander Demon did give me the stick and said, if you hit the stick all the way to the left, we will do a barrel roll. So this is actually me flying the jet, doing a barrel roll in F-16. But if you watch this GIF too many times, you will throw up just like I did, so I'm gonna move on. My firm is one of the fastest human communication consulting firms in the U.S., which is a bizarre thing. It's only relatively new. We started about 3 years ago, and I actually got my start in consulting doing international change management work with Cotter International. If that sounds familiar, you probably studied some change management and read a book by its founder, Dr. John Cotter. I actually studied with him for a year, and he literally wrote the book, 20 books on change management. And I learned how to do consulting slightly different. He said, consultants are the enemy, which is something that consultant owners usually don't say. He said, consultants will come in and they tell you what you already know and charge you an arm and a leg. He said, I want my consulting firm to be the anti-consulting consulting firm. I don't come in and pretend to be an expert in housing. I'm not an expert in housing. I come in and I tell you I'm an expert in my method. And if we can marry your expertise with mine, we can have powerful results. And that's how I learned how to do consulting. Now, the reason that I do this work specifically, and the organization will tell you, the reason why I want to be a part of this comes from a very personal reason. It's going to get a little, it's going to be a little emotional just for a moment, so just deal with it for a minute because I've got the clicker. But I'm originally from Tacoma, Washington, and over the course of a couple of years, there were some unfortunate events, and it led to my mom taking me and my brother away. We were actually terrified of my father, who was involved in things that sometimes people get involved in when they have too much money and not enough maturity. And so we ran away for our safety, and we were homeless on the streets of Seattle for a period of time. And interesting, I was 5 years old, and I don't remember at all being homeless. What I remember was going to the library every day. Now, I know this was not the same Seattle Polk Library as existed then, but I remember going to the library. I remember story time. I remember puppet shows. I remember learning how to read. I remember going to the parks all the time, Freeway Park. I remember going to the Bite of Seattle. I remember the garbage truck driver who waved at me one time. And as a 5-year-old, there's nothing cooler than a garbage truck driver waving at you. And as I became an adult, I realized that there are people behind all of these activities and services that made my experience this interesting adventure. There are people who managed the shelters we stayed at, that provided for us, that allowed us to move into housing eventually. There are people behind it that saved my life. Now, statistically speaking, I should not be doing this. I should not be running a thriving business. I should not have a family that's thriving. I should not, but I do. And it's because of you. And so I decided to make my business, my firm, a majority of my firm is about saying thank you to people who are in service of other people. The mission of my company is to serve those who serve, because the people who you serve have no idea who you are or what you do or how hard you work for them. And so they're never going to say thank you, right? They're never going to fully appreciate what you do because they don't know that you exist, and you do it anyway. I cannot think of anything more noble. And so I made my company about saying thank you. So everything you see here is the same work that I give, the same effort that I give, the same lessons that I give to my Fortune 100 companies, because you deserve it. And I think that you can get something out of this. And if you do, just know that this is a thank you for everyone that you're serving over the course of your careers, who likely won't have the chance to say thank you. Now, the vision of my company is slightly different. The vision of my company has changed the way the world communicates, because there's a fundamental problem happening in our world right now is we are losing the ability to communicate with one another. We are dividing at rapid scale. It's unbelievable. In fact, if you probably experience being unfriended or unfriending someone, right? So this happens because there's a fundamental difference in how we think about something. And this fundamental difference all of a sudden becomes unbearable. And we say, it's no longer worth my time or energy to acknowledge you exist. So we cut them out of our lives, right? We're unfriending people left and right. In fact, this is happening so often, the word unfriend is now in the Oxford Dictionary. That's a problem. That's a problem. And so when you think about this, I talk a lot about collaboration and communication and working together and working with people who are different. And so I asked, why is collaboration so important? Well, we are dividing so rapidly right now. We are pulling apart. We are going away from one another. And I want to talk about this, the case for collaboration. And it comes from a Yale professor. He did a study on his most effective students. He found that some students were getting work done a lot faster than other students. And so when he did a research project on it, he said, the most effective students are getting work done in 1 hour, the same amount of work it takes every other student about 10 hours to do. And so the lesson's been, work as efficiently as possible, get to be as effective as possible. You'll get a 10 times improvement on your efforts. Go to this conference, right, and be more effective. You get a 10 times improvement on your efforts. Well, that's wonderful, but the lesson goes even deeper than that when he starts looking at teams. And he found that the most effective teams, what they can get done in 1 day, it takes every other team or the average team 2,000 days. And if you don't know what I'm talking about right now, I want to show you this image. Most people on this call know what this is. If you've ever been to Tacoma or Seattle, this is the I-5 Highway 16 interchange, which in 1993, there's a section of I-5 about 5 miles or so. In 1993, the Tacoma City Council voted to add carpool lanes to the I-5 freeway. In 1993, they began, and that project is still under construction. 1993, we're talking about a nearly 30-year project. That's what we're talking about, right? When we collaborate, this image right here is taken from Sprague Avenue, which was built out and oops, the elevations were off, and now they had to reconfigure everything, right? Collaboration matters. Looking at the Washington Dot website, this is what the project will look like when it's finally done in 2022, right? Now, given COVID and delays, I bet you that's going to be pushed back even further. So making an actual 30-year project for 5 miles of stretch, right? And so the real lesson is, if we can be a group that can collaborate together, we can get infinitely more done than if we have a team of all-stars that don't work well together, right? So we talk about this, why are we here today? There's an about.com poll, and they said, what is the worst part about your job? Now, this is not like what's the hardest part about being a manager or whatever, right? What's the worst part about all this? It's managing people, right? The worst part about the job is managing people. But then I say, what's the best part about your job? And they say, it's the people. Right? So what gives? Like what's going on? How can the people be the best part and the worst part? Well, it's not every people, it's those people. Those people. So how do we figure out how to work with those people as we go? So what I want to do is I want to just ask you a quick question for you to type into the Q&A or the chat box. What is it about those people that bother you most? What character traits, what behaviors, mannerisms, habits? What is it about those people that bother you the most? All right. So go ahead and type that into the chat box. All right, someone asked me a question, and I will get to that. They said, so how do you bring those that don't speak up? I mean, I'm an introvert, but I share opinions and ideas. But those that don't, how do we get them into the conversation? So we'll talk about that in a minute. So thank you for sharing that. Actually, while these are coming in, there's a pretty fantastic list coming in. So keep typing those in. As those are coming in, I actually want to respond to that. This platform, the online platform, is a beautiful way to get people to speak up. This is something, so I've been doing virtual conferences, virtual keynotes, virtual workshops since March, and I found that the interaction possible through a virtual platform. If you have a chat function that has some layer of anonymity, you actually get infinitely more, it's infinitely is an exaggeration, but you get a lot more participation from a lot more people than if you have a larger group meeting or a conference room. So one thing you can do is you can set chat to only go to the host and then ask people questions like I'm doing right now. And as I do this, when I would do a workshop like this or a keynote like this in a room, and I ask for people to raise their hand and share, I'd maybe get 5 people sharing. Over the course of the entire keynote, I maybe get, maybe 15 people sharing. Because no one wants to do that. Some people really do, a lot of people really don't. But if I say, type in your responses, I end up getting, instead of 15 people sharing once, I end up with every person on average sharing between 5 and 10 times, which completely adds to interactivity. So that's something you can do. Utilize this time where we're using a lot of virtual platforms. All right, back to the question. I'm just gonna read through them kind of rapid fire. Unreliable, complaining, act in isolation, don't include stakeholders, inability to take criticism, their behaviors, those meaning the bad guys, those meaning those people that are hard to deal with, all talk and no action, personalities, those who don't respect my time and efforts the same way I respect theirs, yes, complainers, complaining, act like the victim, entitled, ungrateful, they think they know it all. Oh, the know-it-all. We'll talk about the know-it-all in a moment. They want to tell you how to do it. Arrogant, whiners, boasting, all-stars who think they're the only ones who can do the job right. Doesn't want to be a team player. Wants to be controlling. They highlight the things that I don't like about myself. Ooh, my own insecurities. And challenge my strength as a leader. Ooh, interesting. Folks who are passive-aggressive. Those who don't take responsibility. Doing their job robotically. Interesting. Unclear communication or feedback, lacks details, timeliness, etc. The blamers, talking down or talking at people, rude, mean, not team play. Yeah, these are fantastic. Uncaring, meme monsters. I've never heard that before. That's awesome. All right, so it's important to understand that those traits exist. And so as we go through the rest of this, I want you to be applying it to those people, right? Apply this lesson to those people. Someone say, the Mean Girls Club. Yeah, just like the movie Mean Girls, right? Now, I'm going to run through a couple different principles as we go. And the next one is going to be the power of distinction. So distinction is actually a very, very important principle. And it's actually one of the foundational principles. Think about this. If I ask you what color is the sky, what do you say? The sky is blue, right? That's what most people say, the sky is blue. Well, there's a researcher by the name of Guy Deutscher, and he raised his daughter, Alma, and never taught her the sky is blue. He taught her all the colors like you normally teach a kid, but never said, someone said the sky is gray, we're in Washington. Touche, touche. He never taught her the sky is blue, but he taught all the colors like you normally teach a kid, like reds, greens, blues, all the colors, but never said the phrase, the sky is blue. And so when she was 8 years old, he took her outside. It was a cloudless day. It was a beautiful August day in Washington. And he said, "What color is the sky?" And she looked up. She said, "I don't know, white." See, she didn't see a blue sky like we see a blue sky, which is curious. Another researcher by the name of William Gladstone, he looked at Homer's The Odyssey and Homer's Iliad. These are ancient Greek writings translated into all the different languages. And he went word by word, documenting the frequency of each word. And what he found was very curious. He said, in all of the words, there was never once a mention of the color blue. Not once a mention of the color blue. In fact, there was a passage that said, the sea was deep wine. Now, I know you've probably had a hard day and you know what color deep wine is after a hard day. It's not blue, right? In fact, there's like reds, darks, lights, greens, yellows, all these different color references, but never once blue. Curious. Another researcher by the name of Lazarus Geiger, he looked at other ancient texts. He looked at ancient Hindu texts, ancient Hebrew texts, ancient Quran, all of these ancient texts, and never once found a mention of the color blue in any of these ancient texts. And so the conclusion was, I guess ancient humans couldn't see blue, right? Which is the wrong conclusion. So a linguist, a modern day linguist by the name of Jules Davidoff, he said, I want to look at this phenomenon around the color blue. There is something there to be seen. And so he said, let's look at a modern day human tribe that does not have our society or our language. And he went to Namibia. He met the Himba tribe. Now, as a linguist, what he did, he started to build a language map, basically showing them a thing, getting their word for it, getting our word for it, and kind of matching those up. When he got to colors, things got very, very interesting. He showed them this color, which we would call green. And they said, that's buru. And then he showed them light green, and they said, that's dambu. And then he showed them dark green, and they said, that's zuzu. So 3 different shades of green, they have 3 different distinct words for. And then he showed them this color. And they said, you've already showed us that. That's buru. They didn't have a word for the color blue. Curious. So he sat them down in front of a computer, which freaked them out. And he said, I want you to point out the one square that's different. Now, my background in my bachelor's degree is in graphic design. So I took this image into Photoshop and reproduced it exactly for you. So this is the exact test that they saw. He said, point to the one square that's different. And they laughed at him. They said, they're all the same. They're all the same. Now, if this is easy for you, it's because you're an English speaker, right? It's that one, right? In case there's any him in the room, it's that one. That one's different, right? But remember, they have 3 different distinct words for different shades of green, right? And so he showed them this color test and said, I want you to point out the one square that's different. And they got it right every single time. Now, if you're struggling with this, it's because you're an English speaker. You don't have the same distinction in your language that they do. And so it was as clear as it was for them to see, it's almost impossible for us to see. In fact, this one square is different. And if I bring all the swatches together, you can slightly see the outline of that one square because it is in fact a different color. They could see that square as clearly as you can see the blue square. And so the lesson is, without distinction, we don't even know what we're missing. And so people hear that and like, oh, that's very interesting, Eric. That's very curious. Now, what the hell does that mean? Like, tell me how to apply that. All right. So I'm going to tell you a personal story to help apply this because I love to tell personal stories. Now, one of my jobs around the house is to take out the garbage. Right. And so what I'm supposed to do is take the garbage out Wednesday night because on Thursday morning is when the trash truck comes. Usually I forget Wednesday night and I hear the trash truck the next neighborhood in the morning on Thursday and I run around the house like crazy, like collecting all the trash cans, taking the dumpster to the curb. Well, one afternoon, my wife comes up to me and says, Eric, I've got a pet peeve I want to talk with you about. And now pet peeve is our language for I'm mad, but intentionally not angry. And she says, you know the downstairs bathroom trash? You never put it away when you're done with it. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're probably right. I'm running around the house like crazy. I leave it in the middle of the floor. I'm sorry, I can work on it, okay? Like I can be taught. And so later so the next Thursday rolls around and same thing. I'm running around like crazy. And I hear my wife's voice in my head, like put away the downstairs bathroom trash. And so instead of leaving it in the middle of the floor, I put it between the toilet and the sink, right where it goes. Now at this point, I'm very proud of myself, like chest puffed out, like I'm a good man, right? I did something good, right? And so she comes up to me that afternoon and she says, you know, I thought we talked about this. I'm like, talked about what? I thought I did it right? She's like, no, you didn't. I was like, no, the kids must have moved it. Let's go look. And she's like, yeah, let's go look. And so we walk in and I'm like, see? And she walks in behind me. She's like, see? And then she gives me a distinction. She said, did you realize that I bought this trash can, which is perfectly sized to fit between the toilet and the sink like this? And you keep putting it in like this? And when you do that, the kids will kick it, knock it over, spilling out the contents, and I'm usually the one to pick it up. Oh, see, I never thought that there was a right way to do it, so I never thought there could have been a wrong way to do it, right? Now, here's the thing. A couple people are saying, oh, geez, your wife needs to lighten up, to which I say, don't talk about my wife, please. That's my job, right? But here's the thing. It takes exactly 0 extra effort for me to put it in the correct way or the way she wants, and it makes a meaningful difference in her life. Right? But the thing is, I couldn't even see that I was doing something wrong because I didn't know that there was a right way to do it. And so here's the real lesson is that without distinction, people will make common sense errors. And it's not their fault, right? To my wife, I was making a common sense error because to her, she had that distinction. She could see it so clearly, I couldn't see it. And so if you remember earlier, I said that the only things in life we can learn are things we don't yet know. If you run up against someone who doesn't have some distinction that you do, that means you know something they don't, which means that you can teach them something they don't yet know, which means you have an opportunity. Instead, what we usually do is we say this phrase, how could you possibly? How could you possibly not know that? How could you possibly see it that way? You know the subtext of that phrase, the subtext of the phrase, how could you possibly? The subtext is you're an idiot, right? Now, we don't say that out loud, usually in polite conversation, but we do think it all the time, right? We think, how could you possibly? And when we do, things get really crazy because what people are hearing is, you're an idiot. I think you're stupid. And the way we respond to that is really, really fundamental, right? It's really important to understand that. All right. Now, I want to move on into another thing that's really important, which is the distinction between purpose and process. And this one's really, really fundamental. So purpose is the result of something, or the why, and the process is the method of something, or the how to get there, right? Now, to help illustrate this, another personal story about my wife, because I got her permission to tell all these stories. So I am also an introvert, for the person who shared that earlier. Yes, let's all get over it. I'm an introvert who speaks for a living. Yes, introverts can speak. Now, I'm an introvert. If you don't know what that means, introverts are people who gain energy in solitude. Like, we enjoy being in solitude. We actually gain our energy. Yes, we can speak. Yes, we can go to parties. Yes, we can present to people over Zoom and in person. It takes more energy from us, right? Extroverts are people who gain energy among people. So, for example, my wife is a very strong extrovert. When we go to a party, right, we can both be lively and have fun at the party, but after the party, I have expended my energy and she has been gaining energy for the party. So the drive home from the party, she's like, let's talk about the party. Wasn't that wonderful? Do you remember this part? And she's like buzzing with energy. And I'm like, oh, I was there. We don't need to talk about it. Right? The difference between introverts and extroverts. Okay. So she is the CFO of our company. So she spends all of her time on her home office, right, writing invoices and doing the things that CFOs do. So let's say it's pre-COVID-19 time. We've identified babysitting and we want to go on a date. What do we do? Well, she's been in her home office by herself all the time, and I've been facilitating for a long time. Well, she wants to go dancing, and I don't want to go dancing. But she really wants to go dancing, and I really don't want to go dancing. We're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We find ourselves in the middle of a debate. Now, here's the thing with debate is when we debate process, not purpose. We debate the rightness or wrongness of her idea or my idea, right? We're talking about the merits of hers and saying hers is bad, mine is good. What we truly need is an alignment of purpose. Now, the way in which we find an alignment of purpose or find common desired results is ask two questions. Question number one, what do I truly want? What do I truly want? Now, this question is really, really important when we ask that question, what do I truly want? And so when we talk about this, I want to highlight one specific thing quickly, is there is this really interesting thing that happens with rattlesnakes. And yes, I live in Arizona now, and I want to talk about rattlesnakes. And yes, I work for the Phoenix Zoo, and that's how I helped Larry Fitzgerald pet a rhinoceros. But why does a rattlesnake strike? Now, a rattlesnake strikes for two specific reasons. Reason number one is you encroach upon its territory and it feels threatened by you. So it's a defensive reaction. It will strike at you for defense. The second reason is because it's hungry and it's for offense, right? And so thinking about this, offense and defense look exactly the same. So when you think about this question, what do I truly want? And you find that you're going back and forth in debate, and you see this person exhibiting some behavior, right, that might be defensive. It might be defensive. And when they're defensive, to us, it may look like offense. And so what do we do when we feel like someone is being offensive to us? Well, we get defensive. And then our behavior that we exhibit may to them look like offense. So they get defensive. We go back and forth and back and forth. And really all that we're left with is being like kindergarten, saying, well, he started it, right? That's all we can do. That's all we can do. And so when you think about this, it's important to understand that offense and defense often look exactly the same. So when you ask yourself this question, what do I want? And the answer is, I want to win. I encourage you to shut up. Just stop talking. Here's why. Because if you want to win, that means that you want to make them a loser. And I guarantee you the organization is not better for having a loser in it. The conversation is not better for having a loser. The date is not better for having a loser in it. Your family is not better for having a loser in it. And yet we do this all the time. Right? It's actually built into our DNA because you don't ever have to outrun the bear. Right? No, you have to outrun the other guy. And if you can outrun the other guy, the bear eats him, you survive. Right? Competition is built into our DNA. So we think about what we trying to win. What do I truly want? Well, I want to win is a very frequent thing. Someone said earlier, let's talk about being a know-it-all, right? What is a know-it-all? If nothing more than someone that tries to win every conversation. And I can say this because I'm a recovering know-it-all, right? So know-it-alls are people that want to win every conversation, prove that they're better every conversation. If you think about it that way, it means that know-it-alls are trying to accumulate losers. We're trying to accumulate losers. We're trying to make losers around us. And saying it that way is really awful. Like, I hate saying it that way. So it's important to understand. So in this situation, what do I truly want? Okay, thinking about letting go of that trying to win, letting go of my idea of Netflix is the only thing I really, what do I really want? I want to spend time with my wife and I want a quiet environment. That's it. Netflix is just the first thing I thought of to get me that. And then the illusion of certainty gripped me. And I said, this is the way to solve the problem. Okay. Second question, what do they truly want? Now, this one requires a little bit of empathy. You need to get inside someone else's thinking experience. And it's really hard, especially when you're in the throes of debate. Well, here's a question. I'd like you to write it down. If you find yourself in the middle of debate and you want to ask the question, what do they truly want? You can ask this, right? If you can't figure it out, ask them specifically. Why are you so passionate about your position? Why are you so passionate about your position? That's really, really important. So when you talk about passion, right, that's a positively tuned word. And you're actually talking about what motivates them positively to end up at their position. That gets you something a little closer. Someone asked, can I send you the bear photo? Yes, I can send that out, absolutely. So when you think about this, what do they truly want in this situation? What did my wife truly want? Well, she wants to spend time with me, and she wants to get out of the house, and she wants to be among people. That's really it. Going dancing, which is the first thing she thought of to get her those things. And then the illusion of certainty gripped her, and she couldn't think of anything outside of that idea. So once we let go of our thoughts, our ideas, let go of the illusion of certainty, and we go down to the level of purpose. What do we truly want? Look for alignment of purpose. Well, I want to spend time with her. She wants to spend time with me. Fine. Whatever we do, spend time together. I want to be in a quiet environment. She wants to be out of the house among people. Well, can we find that? Something that's together, out of the house among people. Yeah, we went to the movies. We went to the movies. And the funny thing is, after a couple of hours of watching a movie, maybe about dancing, right? My energy returned a little bit, and we walked around the mall and talked. Well, she talked, I listened, right? But here's the thing, almost any debate can be solved by finding mutual purpose, almost any debate. The problem is that people focus so hard on making us debate because we don't actually solve problems in debate, right? We don't actually go to purpose. And more often than not, we find that we are on the same team. When we get down to mutual purpose, we have to first let go of the belief that our idea is the one true right idea, right? And then we find ourselves so incredibly divided. Why are we so divided? Why does it seem like our division is growing? I want to talk about something called cognitive balance. And so to help illustrate this, I want to talk about three different people. So we got me, Sarah, and Carl. If your name is Sarah or Carl in this situation, don't worry, I'm not talking about you, right? So here's how this works. I have a positive association to Sarah. I like Sarah. And also I have a positive association to Carl, right? So that's very easy. And also Carl has a positive association to Sarah. So this is cognitively balanced. This is a situation that is balanced. Now, let's say I have a positive association with Sarah and Carl. However, Carl has a negative association to Sarah. We find ourselves unbalanced. And so what we want to do here is our brains naturally try to restore balance. And there are two ways to restore balance here, right? Way number one is I change and find that I have a negative association to Carl. So if I find that I have a negative association to Carl, and then all of a sudden now we're rebalanced. I don't like Carl, Carl doesn't like Sarah, so we're good here. Right? Let's flip this. Instead of people, let's flip out Sarah and make it an issue, right? If I like an issue, I like Carl, and Carl likes the issue, we're balanced here, right? But if I like this issue, positive towards this issue, positive towards Carl, and Carl is negative towards this issue, we find ourselves unbalanced, right? So to restore balance, either I change how I feel about Carl, or I change how I feel about the issue. Right? To restore balance, right? Those are different ways we restore balance. Now, let's switch out Carl and let's say a group, maybe a political party, right? Again, I feel positive association towards this issue, and have a positive association to this political party, but the political party has a negative association to this issue, we find that it's unbalanced. And so what we find is that I will try to restore balance by either changing how I feel about my political party or changing how I feel about the issue. And you find that with this constant trying to rebalance is that we are separating, right? We find that if you are going to vote for this political candidate, we can't be friends anymore, right? That would be the issue, right? You see people pulling apart, and you see this coalescing around certain issues. This issue, if you are positive with this issue, you're more likely to be positive with this issue and this issue and this issue. And you see these issues coming together, and then people coming together around these issues, and then we pull apart. And it's very, very interesting to see how this is happening. Now, this isn't 100% of the time that this happens, right? But it's important to understand that when you see these divisions happening, this is one of the reasons that these divisions are happening. And it's very, very interesting. Now, and we'll talk about later, but some people can exist with cognitive imbalance, right? That's totally fine for some folks. But you see this division happening. This is one of the reasons why. Next principle I want to talk about is perception versus reality, right? Perception versus reality. And now we hear this phrase all the time, perception equals reality. Well, here's the thing, it's not true. Perception does not equal reality. If you don't believe me, let's look at the dictionary definitions. So perception is understood as a way of understanding or interpreting something, and reality is the state of things as they actually exist rather than as they may be perceived or might be imagined. In the definition of reality, it says not perception, right? And so when you think about this, people say all the time, yeah, well, my perception is my reality. What does that mean? That means that my perception is the way I believe it to be. My perception is my truth. My perception is my worldview. Now, when you think about that, what does that mean? Worldview, mental model, right? Perception builds over time to create our mental model. Now, a mental model is an internal representation of the relationship between a set of elements. So let's say, for example, you're carrying a box up a flight of stairs, and the box obscures your view from the stairs. And so you're walking up the stairs and you believe that there was one more step than there actually is, right? Well, what happens? In your brain, you believe that there's a step, and so you take a step, even if it's not there, right? You physically behaved in a way that was commensurate with your perception of things. Your mental model made you believe there was a step, so you physically manifested that there was a step, you took that behavior, and reality didn't change. There was no step. Perception does not equal reality, right? Perception guides our behaviors. Perception over time builds our mental models. So I'm going to show you this image here. Now, in this image, we've got a bunch of kind of intertwined circles here. And what I want to talk about next is this concept of cognitive dissonance. So we have these images, these circles, these are intertwined circles. Now I want you to just look at them for a second. Now, I'm going to give you some information that may challenge your mental model, that there are 4 intertwined circles here. And I want to tell you that these are actually 4 concentric circles. These are 4 circles that have no interaction at all. No line at all intersects in the circle. If you don't believe me, just trace some of the gray area in between the circles all the way around, and you'll find that there's actually no point in any of these circles that interact with any one of these other circles. These are all concentric circles. Now, what you're experiencing is cognitive dissonance. What that means is an unpleasant psychological phenomenon from a clash between disharmonious elements. So the disharmonious elements was the mental model, or our belief that these are intersecting circles, and newly presented information. Sometimes newly presented information comes at a clash to what we already believed. Now, when we experience cognitive dissonance, it actually heightens our awareness or alertness and makes us want to focus more on restoring harmony. How can we make sense of this? We're looking at this thing. How do we make sense of it? A couple different things that we do. Actually, several different things that we can do. Number one is we minimize the importance of the dissonant information. So you may tell me these are 4 concentric circles, but I don't care. I still see that it's clear they're interacting, right? We can completely ignore dissonant information. Just you tell me something that challenges my way of thinking, and I will completely ignore that you said it, and I'll respond to something else that you said. We can delegitimize dissonant information. Yeah, I understand, but these aren't quite the circles. They're interacting. You can tell because the lines, and will delegitimize, or you don't know what you're talking about. You're right. Delegitimize the deliverer of the information. Another thing we can do is we can overemphasize the original information. Right. Well, I know this to be true, and here's why it's important. And this is why I, really selling the line of our mental model of why it matters. Another thing we do is it seems slightly out of place, but we can practice self-affirmation. A lot of times, cognitive dissonance, it comes at a conflict of our mental model that we are a good person, right? If this new information challenges that I believe I'm a good person, well, then I'm going to do what I can to reinforce that and say, I'm a good person. Well, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. Well, here's why I'm a good person, which really helps us restore harmony. The last thing we can do, which is actually the most effective, is we can allow both elements to exist at the same time. It is possible to have a mental model where these things appear to be intersecting, and also to have this new information where they don't intersect. And so when we do this practice of thinking about our mental models and new information, you can slowly start to see how these two things can coexist. And you don't need to completely let go of your mental model. What you need to do is you can allow both of these things to coexist. And when we do that, things get really, really powerful, all right? So it's not that perception equals reality. It's that perception is more important than reality. And to help illustrate this, I have one thing I want to talk about. All right, I'm going to release the last poll here in a second here. And what I want you to do is I want you to tell me, is this shoe pink and white or gray and teal? So go ahead and enter in your response to the poll here. Pink and white or gray and teal. All right, so go ahead and look at the shoe here. Interesting. All right, we've got a lot of response, about 50 responses so far. Fantastic. Go ahead and pink and white, gray and teal, only 2 options here. All right, I'll keep it open for another maybe 10 seconds. A lot of responses still coming in. Pink and white, gray and teal. All right, we're up to about 80. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, hold on. I'm gonna keep that going. I'm gonna clear that annotation there. Let's see. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the poll, and let's look at these results. Okay, so 21 people said that this shoe is pink and white, and 64 people said this shoe is gray and teal. Now, I'm going to tell you something, but first I want you to just take note. Okay, so 25% of the folks said that this shoe is pink and white. 75% of the folks said that it is gray and teal. This shoe is actually pink and white. Now, what I want you to know is what were you thinking when you think about those people, right? The people on the other side. You're probably thinking, how could you possibly, right? How could you possibly? Now, here's something that's really, really important, is that when we interact with people who see the world differently than we do, they have a different perception of things than we do. Yes. All right. All right, so we're talking about these ideas of perception and reality, and these differences in perception are actually far greater than we imagine them to be, right? These things are happening all the time. And it's important for us to understand that these aren't random things. Now, for those of you who saw it as gray and teal, I want to redeem you a bit, because you're probably feeling a little sad that I told you were wrong. So actually, I took this image into Photoshop, and what you're going to see here is the image of the shoe, and then you're going to see me actually moving my mouse around and using the eyedropper tool, so you can actually see the specific color pixels that are underneath where the eyedropper is. And in this white section, exactly, the pixels are teal. There are actually no white pixels. They're all teal pixels. And then when I move over to the pink area, or the area that is originally pink on the shoe, you can actually see that all of the pixels are actually gray, right? So I'm gonna move over here to this area, and you can see that all the pixels are gray. There's actually no pink at all in this image. There's no pink and there's no white. And as I'm one of the people that sees it as pink and white, well, here's what's going on. is our brains have the ability to adapt or make changes for what we perceive. So if you're someone that sees this image as pink and white, your brain is accounting for obviously the terrible photo, but you're actually removing the blue light out of the image, right? Because it's kind of overexposed, kind of blue and green. So your brain is actually removing the blue light from the image and only seeing the pink and white shoe. If you see it as gray and teal, you're actually seeing the pixels as they actually are, and you're actually seeing the gray and the teal. So is it right, wrong? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the point is, what did you think when they said their opinions? Like, oh, how could you possibly? And we do this so often. We judge them, the other team, as stupid. Now, one thing we can do to kind of overcome this is we can change a couple of phrases. So this phrase, I don't know, or I don't understand. I don't know why anyone would do it that way. I don't understand why anyone would do it that way, right? And these phrases actually become really, really powerful when you add four unique words after it. So a lot of times we actually use these phrases as judgment phrases. I don't know why anyone would do that way. I don't understand why anyone would, right? And so those are judgments. Like, it's not like you don't understand. It's like, I'm telling you this is bad. But if you add 4 words to the end of it, it changes it from a judgment phrase into a curious phrase. And those 4 words are, but I want to. I don't understand why you would do it that way, but I want to. Right? I don't know why you could think that, but I want to. Right? And that changes us to curiosity. And curiosity is really, really important. Right? And so I always say perception is more important than reality. Right? And this matters when you talk about communication, because whatever you say or do matters less than what they hear or feel. What you say or do is reality. Right? How they interpret that is going to be fundamental, right? What they hear or feel is their perception. That's what they're going to base all of their behaviors on. And that's what really, really matters, right? So we talk about this idea of, what do I truly want? This is something I want you to keep coming back to, because it's so easy for us to say, oh, I want this. I want world peace. I want this. I want that. I want this, right? I want equality. I want all these things. Follow that up with, if this is what I truly wanted, how would I behave, right? And if our behaviors don't actually match the behaviors that would exist if that's what we truly wanted, then maybe there's something to explore there. And that's something that I think is really important for folks as they think about how they're processing through the world, especially with challenging people, the difficult people, right? If what I truly want is, I want to build this relationship stronger, or I want to be productive, right? If that's what I truly wanted, how would I behave? All right. Can I get someone to give me a time check? How much time do I have in here? My timer reset when I got booted out. So I don't want to overrun, but I also don't want to shortchange and speed up too fast. How are we doing, Shelley? Or Mike? Oh, you're muted. You're muted there, Mike.
Sorry about that. You're doing pretty good. How much more time do you think you need?
I bet if we can have maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Is that too much? I can speak.
Nope, that would be perfect.
All right. All right. Sounds good. All right. Everyone buckle up for the last 15 minutes. The last 15 minutes are the best. All right. Here we go. Next principle I want to talk about is the truth about judgment. Now, the truth about judgment is really, really interesting, because we think that we make thoughtful judgments. And in making thoughtful judgments, we employ facts, reasoning, and logic. Now, this is actually something that's really, really important, that when we make thoughtful judgments, we use these 3 tools. Now, all of these tools are utilized in what's called the reasoning brain. Right? Now, the interesting thing is there's actually another part of our brain that we utilize when we make judgments, and it's called the automatic brain. Now, the automatic brain processes things rapidly. The reasoning brain processes things slowly. All right. Now, when you think about this, here's an example, and you don't need to respond to me, but just think about these answers, right? If you've ever been in a loving, committed relationship with somebody, do you or did you love that person? Just a yes or no, right? It's probably easy answer. Yeah. Second question, why did you love that person? Exactly. Right. So when I ask you, do you or did you love that person? That happens in the reasoning, or the automatic brain happens very, very quickly. Right. But the reasoning brain processes things more slowly. And so when I ask you why, right, that is, you're asking for reasons. And so eventually your brain will get there. Eventually you'll make up those reasons. You'll come up with those reasons. But just know that that part of the brain works slowly. All right. So what I want to do right now is I need a volunteer. All right. So I think you can go through the participant list and you can use the raised hand feature. And I want to just get a few folks. I'll select out a volunteer. So go ahead and raise your hand if you want to volunteer. This will be the first time in history that we've done this exercise over Zoom. So go ahead and raise your hand. I'll ask for a few folks to do it, and then I'll pick at random of some of these folks here. If you don't know what you're volunteering for, so haha. But what I'm going to do is I'll unmute you in a moment, and then we'll do some work. All right. Looking for just a couple more folks to volunteer, so I can make a truly random selection here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the volunteer pool in 3, 2, and 1. All right. So I'm going to just kind of go eeny, meeny, miny, mo here. All right. Brandy, I'm going to allow you to unmute. You are a volunteer. Thank you so much. If you want to, you can turn on your camera and you can volunteer live. You do not have to. You just need to have your voice for it. All right. You ready to go?
Yeah.
You have no idea what you're going to volunteer for. All right. So what's going to happen, Brandy, is I'm going to show you a series of things on the screen. And what I want you to do is I just want you to respond to them as quickly as you can. All right. Don't worry. Just know that there are 116 other people just judging your responses. No, I'm kidding. Don't worry about it. All right. So Brandy, first thing, looking at these two lines, line 1 and line 2, which line do you believe is longer, number 1 or number 2?
Number 1.
All right. In fact, these are the exact same size. Isn't that crazy? So crazy. Number 1 and number 2 are the same size. All right. So looking at these two faces, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the right face or the left face? Right face, left face. Which face do you prefer?
The right face.
Okay. Which direction is the ballerina turning? Is she turning to her left or is she turning to her right?
Her right.
Right. Now, this is actually really interesting because it's actually ambiguous, because whichever way you perceive it is the way it can be turning. Because it's a silhouetted shadow. Anyway, moving on. Brandy, how many F's are in the phrase? I'm just kidding. All right. When you go to the movies, if you can ever remember going to the movies, do you prefer candy or popcorn?
Popcorn.
Popcorn. Why do you prefer popcorn?
I don't know. It's salty.
You like the salty. Okay. All right. Now, Brandy, why did you prefer this face? No, you chose. Why do you prefer this face?
I didn't choose that face.
Oh, okay. I thought you chose that one.
Why do they look different? They look different from the first time.
They are different, Brandy. You are the first person in the history of ever to get that correct. You're the first person in history. Do you have someone helping you on the side?
No.
No, I thought I heard voices back there. So you're absolutely correct. These are not the faces that you had to choose from. You're not the faces. What usually happens in exercise is someone says, oh, I like the earrings. I like the hair, the lipstick. And then I realized that, oh, this is the face that I actually chose. And then my reasoning brain kicked in and started to create reasons for why I chose this face. And the reason this happens is that our reasoning brain is actually separate from our automatic brain. And so when you made this choice, the automatic brain chose one or the other for no reason, right? It just chose. And then as we go through and start to reason, oftentimes people will find very clear reasons for choosing this face that they didn't actually choose. So Brandy, thank you for ruining my example. And no, I'm just kidding. No, you did fantastic. All right. So we're gonna move on. Thank you so much for participating, Brandy. Really appreciate it. We'll put you back in. And I'm going to go ahead and lower the hands. Thank you for everyone who participated. Jen, Crystal, Brandy, and Michelle, thank you so much for volunteering. All right. All right. Oops, one last one there. All right. All right, so let's move on to the 2 capital facts exercise. Now, the 2 capital facts exercise is something that I do just kind of help illustrate the next point. So in the 2 capital facts exercise, how it works is 1 fact is clearly true, 1 fact is clearly. Here is, oh, I'm going to get ready to pull up the poll. Where'd the poll go? Here's the polls. There it is. All right, so here is fact number 1. Here's fact number 2. All right, here comes the poll. All right, fact number 1, fact number 2. And I'll just kind of bounce back and forth.
France has 12 time zones.
1, 1, 2. 1, 2. Someone's working out live for us here. All right, couple more seconds, about 10 more seconds. All right. All right, 3, 2, and oh, they're still coming in. I'm gonna hold. I'll let you come in. I'll let you come in. Get your answers in. All right, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so let's go ahead and share our responses here. All right, this fact, the capital of Switzerland is Geneva, is the false one. That one is the false one. So many people got it wrong. 71% of people got this one wrong. Holy smoke. Okay. All right, let's look at why this happened here. All right, so we're actually dealing with something called cognitive fluidity. Now, cognitive fluidity happens in the automatic brain. Remember, it happens fast, happens rapidly. So cognitive fluidity is something that happens in our automatic brain, and it can be manipulated. And I intentionally manipulated your cognitive fluidity so that you would get this wrong. So here's some things that I did. I gave you an easy to read font, right? I said, automatic brain, the capital of Switzerland, clear and easy to read. And so your brain had to work less hard to read it. And so when things are easier to read, your brain is more likely to trust it. All right. The second thing I did is I used repetition. Repetition happens all the time, especially in marketing. And you see people will show these marketing commercials all the time. Think about the Chevy JD Power Awards that they show. And it's like, it's a 30-second commercial, but they show 2 15-second Chevy spots, right? It's like, oh, I've heard that somewhere. Amazon does this all the time too, right? And so the repetition, every time your brain hears something, it's like, oh, I recognize that from somewhere. It's more likely to be trusted. The third thing, actually very important, is repetition. Repetition happens all the time, especially in marketing. Sorry, I think I'm funny. That was supposed to be a joke, all right? No, but it's important to understand that repetition, when you hear something twice or more often, that your brain is more likely to trust it. So this happens in automatic brain. I called this the 2 capital facts exercise. This has nothing to do with capital facts. I just wanted to replay the number 2 and the word capital so that when you saw those again, your brain was more likely to trust the fact that those were associated with. Right? Cognitive fluidity. The next thing I do is a high contrast. When you see something with high contrast, your brain, it's easier for brain to perceive what's going on and you're more likely to trust it. So this fact, France has 12 time zones, which is a weird grayish speckled pattern in scripted font, broken up on 3 lines on an orange background, right? That's all intended for it to be hard for your brain to receive. And so your brain is less likely to trust that information. In fact, France does have 12 time zones because France has territories all over the world, right? France has more time zones than any other country in the world, right? It used to be Russia, but apparently Russia got rid of a couple. I don't know what Russia does. Anyway, right? All right, so the last thing is repetition. Repetition happens all the time, especially in marketing. And all right, I'm done with the joke. Okay, so So all this happens in the automatic brain. Now, it's important to understand that even though you know about this, right? When you're making judgments, it's important to understand that part of your brain is actively working against you, right? Even though you know about this, you think that you make thoughtful judgments, rational judgments. Part of your brain, the automatic brain, is actively working against you. So just remember that as you're going through your days and your life, etc. Now, I want to move on. So I do work all over the country. I mentioned earlier, I've done a lot of work in St. Louis. And last time I was out there, it was in November, I think. Maybe it was December. But McDonald's started rolling out new French fries. They're going to start spreading them around the country. I don't know if it's to save money or whatever, but they're going to change from the kind of skinnier shoestring style fries to larger potato wedge, or some call them JoJo style fries. And so that's been happening. They've been doing this transition. They just came to Arizona to start going over to the rest of the country. Now, real quick, is anyone having an emotional reaction to this? Anyone having a difficult time with this, that McDonald's is changing their French fries? Of course, because it's not true, right? But here's the thing. I just warned you 18 seconds ago that even though you know this, part of your brain is actively working against you. When you make judgments and decisions, part of your brain is actively working against you, right? You just made a rapid fire judgment. No, not the fries, not the fries, right? But if you would have reasoned your way through, you would have slowed down and not made an automatic decision, you would have realized that's not English. You would have realized that McDonald's changed their fries in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, and there was a huge uproar, right? They're not going to do that again, right? If you would have slowed down your thinking instead of going to automatic response, this is what we do all the time. We make judgments, rapid fire, right, on the automatic brain, and then go back with our reasoning brain and then justify those judgments, right, or decisions, okay? Now, I promised I'd tell a couple of stories, and I once communicated with LL Cool J on the campus of Harvard University. This is a true story. I'm going to tell the story as kind of one of the ways that we're going to wrap here. I mentioned earlier, I was a change management consultant with Cotter International, and Dr. John Cotter is a Harvard professor of 45 years. So when I started with the company, he asked me, he said, Eric, do you want to come sit in? I'm hosting an executive training course at Harvard Business School. And I'm like, you want me to go and sit in on one of your classes at Harvard Business School? Yes. So I got on a plane and I went to Harvard. Now, I didn't go to Harvard, but I did go to Harvard, right? So just want to put that disclaimer out there. So we're sitting there in this executive training course, and all of a sudden there's this buzz that starts to happen around the room, and people start to get really, really like energized about something. I don't exactly know what's going on. So eventually I figure out that in the next classroom over at Harvard Business School, next classroom over, there's another executive training course. And in this course, in this classroom, was Paul Gasol, Chris Paul, LL Cool J, and Channing Tatum. Now, I know there's a lot of people like, what? LL Cool J and Magic Mike? People are freaking out. But no, they were in there learning how to utilize their celebrity to help build business. All right, so they were actually taking courses. So there's like, I need you to know that my mother-in-law is an extreme LL Cool J fan. Like, fan isn't quite the right word for it. She's basically married to him. He just doesn't know it yet. So at this moment, like, I know that LL Cool J is in the next classroom over. And while I'm in class there, she was actually undergoing hernia repair surgery. So this woman has fought and beaten cancer 3 times, brain surgery, and is now at the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona, undergoing a hernia repair. This woman has gone through everything and has the most amazing positive disposition. So I know I'm this close to LL Cool J. I've got to do something. So our group goes on a break, and then his group goes on a break, right? And so I'm like, I got to do something. So I walk up to him. You can tell that's me because you can see like the vest, right? That's pretty much all I wear. I sleep in my vest, right? And so I go up to him and say, excuse me, Mr. Smith. His name is James Todd Smith. Is his LL Cool J, James. His last name is Smith. Anyway, so Mr. Smith, I was wondering if, and I'm like tripping over my words. So I'm so nervous to talk to him. Like, I know like my mother-in-law, I eventually get out. Can you record a video for her? And he says, sure. And this is the video. I'm just make sure that my sound is going to be shared with y'all. Okay, so this is the video he recorded for my mother-in-law at Harvard.
Luck with your surgery. I wish you the best. Everything will be fine. Just feel good, say a little prayer, and just lay back, relax, and you'll wake up better. Much
All right,
love.
so
Thanks
I
a
am
lot.
the best son-in-law ever. So the thing is that he actually said her name at the beginning, but I couldn't get my phone to start fast enough. So he said, hey, Carla. I'm like, oh, I missed it. But anyway, so I posted the video on Facebook and I tagged my wife and my mother-in-law. My wife was like sitting at her mom's bedside, waiting for her to wake up from anesthesia. And as soon as she wakes up, she's like, Mom, I got to show you something. And she shows her the video on her phone and my mother-in-law passes out. And the rest of the day, like all she can remember from that day of surgery was just dreaming about LL Cool J the entire day. Now, the reason that I tell the story is I was absolutely terrified, right? Absolutely terrified to go and deal with and to talk to this person, right? And so he's just a human being, right? He is a human. And I was absolutely terrified to speak with him. And as I realized, connecting with people is not as hard as we pretend it is, right? I put so many barriers out there to just going and connecting with another human being, talking to another human being. But I put all of these barriers out there. We're not on the same level. We just like all these things we put out there, and it's just another human. And I want you to remember that as you go into dialogue with people who may disagree with you, right? Connecting with them is a lot easier than we pretend it is. Right? Finding things that we agree on is actually a lot easier than finding things we disagree on, right? But we can do it. It's always there. There's so many more things we agree on, right? That common denominator, right, is always there. All right. Now, I know that I teach kind of like drinking from a fire hose. I give you a lot of information in a very short period of time. I'm sorry, not sorry. But I do that because I don't need you to be an expert in everything I talk about. What I do is I need you to be aware of all of these things, because that is what helps us move forward in the future. So the last thing I want to talk about is called the power of awareness. Okay. So when we talk about the power of awareness, I'm going to do it by illustrating in this image. So in this image, there is something to be seen. And when you see it, it'll be perfectly clear, totally unambiguous. It'll stand out clear as day. When you see it, I want you to hit that raised hand icon. I'm not going to call on anybody, but I just want to get a good view of who sees it. If you don't know where the raised hand is, feel free to just type in a yep or a thumbs up or something in the chat. All right, but I want to make sure that everyone can see it. When you see it, it's not going to be like I think I see a smiley face in the rock. I think I see a rock or a frog. It's perfectly clear. Now, I can't end until everyone sees it, so I'm gonna give a couple of hints to make sure that everyone sees it before we end. The first hint is I want you to look for a cigar. That's the thing you're looking for. Are you looking for a cigar? All right, fantastic. That helps some people out. All right. All right. Now, the next hint I'm going to give, again, once you see it, go ahead and raise your hand so I know that everyone sees it. The next hint I'm going to give is I'm going to drain all of the color out of the image and just leave the brown cigar in the middle. All right. A few more people are seeing it. Fantastic. Fantastic. More thumbs up, more hands raised. That's fantastic. Now, if you still can't see it and you're too embarrassed to ask, or you're going to lie and raise your hand without actually seeing it, it's right here. Here's the cigar. All right. Now, here's the thing. I'm about to put the image back the way it was before, when you couldn't see it. And the crazy thing about awareness is that once you see it, you can never not see it. So you're going to go about your day and you're going to see all kinds of crazy things, right? You're going to see the illusion of certainty. You're going to see the Apple logo. You're going to see perception more important than reality. You're going to see, how could you possibly, you're going to see all of these things, right? You're going to see debates, right? You're going to see all of this stuff. And when you do, I want you to say to yourself, there's more left for me to learn, right? Let all of these things be a reminder to you that there is more left in this life for you to learn, because the only things in life we can learn are things we don't yet know. When you come up against somebody who disagrees with you vehemently, take that as an opportunity to learn something, not change your position, but learn what's motivating them, right? Because it's so hard for us. Instead, what we usually do is call them idiots. I promise every single person you've ever fought with, ever argued with, believes in their heart of hearts that they are rational and logical, just like you. And so if you take the moment to not fight and look for what might be there, you may find that you find the humanity of that person and still disagree. And that's where we can start to heal our world. All right. So if you want to keep learning about this stuff, feel free to grab a copy of my book, The Cure for Stupidity. You can grab it on Amazon. You can find it at thecureforstupidity.com if you want to. You can grab it there. Now, armed with all of this knowledge, I want you to go and believe that there's goodness in the people in the world. And so now you can go and be the good. Thank you very much.